Hi, how are you tonight? Thank you for joining me. I'm starting just a couple of minutes early just to make sure some of the recurring glitches might not be happening tonight. That's my wish anyway. So my name is Roberta Colasino and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator coming to you for the next 2 months from Pompano Beach, Florida. Normally I'm coming to you from upstate New York. So tonight we're going to kind of pick up where I left off last week and see what I can do to finish up what I started last week that didn't go so well because I couldn't find my things. It's a much smaller space here than I have at home, and it's a much smaller desk than I have here at home, and I'm losing things right in front of me. So I'm truly hoping that things will be better from now on. However, the construction continues here, and I don't know why it did not occur to me that there would be mountains of dust from what they were doing. And so everything was dusty, and I used a Swiffer, and I wore a mask, and I think I got most of it cleaned up, but every once in a while I pick something up, and it leaves my hands feeling really kind of yucky. So we'll see what happens. No guests on the horizon just yet. The one who was going to come the earliest is kind of on hold, and I think she realizes that she's on hold. So I'm just checking. Okay, there I am. So all of that is good. And like I said, even though I'm a couple of minutes early, well, now I'm not, it's 7 o'clock, I think I'll get started so I'm not taking up too much of your time. All right, and I'm just going to put the camera down, and then depending on which way I flip it, you're either going to be looking at my ceiling or at my table, and I'll fix it as fast as I can. So here goes. Let's see what that gives us. Yep, that gives us the ceiling. Okay. So it's a very easy fix. Oops, sorry for the noise. Believe it or not, it's an easy fix. Got to flip that around. There we go. And then, no, it looks like I don't need to do anything else. Okay, good. All right. So, sorry, I've got stuff everywhere. Like I said, it's a much smaller space. So I can, though, probably, let's see, bring this a little bit closer. And of course, it would be wonderful if I could just leave it in place, but I can't because everything has to get kind of shoved out of the way every time the workmen come, and I don't even know when they're coming back. Okay, that looks decent, and I'm going to leave it alone. So, this is my host code for the month of January, and thank you very much to those of you who have placed orders, and also thank you because you were very understanding about what you were going to get in terms of a card kit. I made a few bad judgment calls when I packed up things in not packing enough of every single color. So certain colors had to be changed out and so on, but everybody has been quite nice about that. So I'm very grateful for that. And next year I'm learning from all the lessons. I learned from last year's lessons and the year before's lessons. This is my 3rd year doing this from Florida and packing up my business basically and bringing it here. So I'll have it totally down pat in no time. So anyway, use that host code if you're placing an order, and if you place an order of $35, you will get a free class kit, which basically means you'll get all of the materials that you need other than stamped images for the cards that I'm making tonight. All right, and last week what I talked to you about was a one-sheet wonder for a 12 by 12 paper. Now, if you Google this or look this up on Pinterest, you will find dozens of these, and everybody does it differently, so that's okay. This and definitely works best with double-sided paper. So I will post this here in the group, and I urge you to go right ahead or encourage you to go ahead and look up other ones and see the way other people do them. Okay, and then let's see. This is my inspiration prompt calendar, daily prompt calendar for January. And of course, January is almost over now. It's right. Today's the 24th, right? So again, I'll remind you to take a look at this. One person has done this so far. And in terms of following some of the prompts, in terms of being willing to post something here on the group and getting a little reward perhaps for doing so. So take a close look at that. I also wanted to point out really quickly that anyone who attends my classes regularly would have gotten a copy of my January to December event catalog class calendar, and those would have been handed out to them by Dawn and Cheryl who are covering my classes for me. If you end up not attending any classes in January, February, or March, then there's a calendar with your name on it that will just be given back to me when I get back. But if you don't attend classes but might be interested, if you just send me a private message or comment on here that you would like one of these calendars, I will be more than happy to send you one. All right, I can send it to you electronically if you're not that interested in printing it out, or I can send it to you in the mail. This is just one page from what we call the Color Coach, and I've been asked about this because I've mentioned it quite a bit recently. So the way the Color Coach works is that, think of this as a card, okay? So they get cut up and they're little cards. And there's one for every single one of the colors that we have, so all 50 colors. Everything including the in colors and so on. And so the card for Cherry Cobbler has Cherry Cobbler listed 3 times and then tells you colors that Stampin' Up's artisans believe will go well with that. And sometimes I look at it and I don't agree, but then when I try it, they really do look good together. So for those of us, and I say us because I mean myself as well, for those of us who are a little challenged when it comes to deciding what colors go with what colors, this is just a wonderful thing to look at. And even though the Cherry Cobbler card gives you different alternatives for things that go with Cherry Cobbler, you might look at another one, like this one down here is for Sweet Sorbet, but it also mentions that Sweet Sorbet, Cherry Cobbler, and Old Olive go well together. So that gives you yet another possible combination for Cherry Cobbler. And then over here, where there's Melon Mambo listed, it tells you that Melon Mambo, Cherry Cobbler, and Night of Navy are nice together. So here's the deal. I can send you a PDF of this, and it would be, 10 pages, right? Because 10 times 5 is 50. So it would be 10 pages long, and you could either print it out yourself or choose to use it just as a resource on your computer. If you would like a copy of it printed out and put together with a 3-ring binder, not a 3-ring binder, what am I trying to say? One of those loose leaf rings, just one ring, okay, put together with a ring or maybe put together with a brad, I haven't quite decided yet. I will do that for you on cardstock, and I would ask $30 for that because of the ink that I would be using and because of the cardstock that I would be using and the time to cut them all up and mount them and everything else. So for $30 you would have this, and because they've just done a fairly recent color refresh, the colors would be good for, I'm guessing, at least another 5 years. The in colors do kind of come and go. You know that every year one group of in colors goes out and another comes in. So those wouldn't last forever. But if you purchase this from me for the $30, when the new in colors come out, I can send you those cards for no extra charge, and I would be happy to do that. So think about that. I've been asked about that, and so that's the answer. That's what that is. All right. So last week, I showed you this card that I made, which was part of the whole idea of using the 12 by 12 template. See, already I can't find it, but I know it's like literally right in front of me. Okay, there it is. So I used, when I made this card last week, I used a 4 by 4 piece of paper, and I used a 4 by 1 piece of paper. So that was all I used, and that made one card. And then I just used a scrap to make the tab. So for anyone who might not have been here with me last week, this is a pocket card, which means that instead of opening the card this way or this way, you put the inside, what would normally be the liner, in the card like this, and you pull it out, or your recipient pulls it out, and they get to see the card that way. I mentioned last week that I kind of picked this particular paper because it's a paper that people seem to either really like or really not like. I really like it. Debbie, I know, commented that she's a flowery girl and likes kind of the prettier, fruffier things, and I know that. And so my intention last week was to make one of those cards. Maybe not necessarily with flowers, but definitely something a little bit more along the pretty lines. And that was what I couldn't find last week. And then I just kind of gave up and said, okay, I'll see you next week. So what I have here is a piece of bubble bath. I always want to call it something else, bubble bath. And what I have done is I have scored it at 1 inch and at 5.5 inches. All right, so I'm going to fold it in half just like I would normally fold in half a card base. That's going to go the long way. And I'm just going to burnish that down. And then I'm going to turn it this way, and I know it's very hard for you guys to see the score line, but it's there. I'm going to pull that one towards me. Okay, so we've got one going in one direction and one going in the other direction. And I'm going to burnish that down because we do kind of want that to lay flat. So it's as simple as that. Now, last week when I made the other card, I did not glue the other card. I just think that if you glue the card, it's going to make it a little harder for this to come out, and one solution would be to just trim a tiny bit off, like maybe 1/8 of an inch off each side or one side before you put the tab on. But I think it's just fine because it really can't fall out, okay? So what I did was I took a 4x4 piece of this paper, yeah, and already something flight, airy in flight, flare, yeah, something like that. I can't pull it out at the moment, but I do have my catalog right within reach. So I put this on here, and I didn't worry about having it be even on the top because this is going to come down and cover that anyway. So I just tried to put my borders on the right, the left, and the bottom so that they were even. I do actually know my right from my left most days, but these days I don't know. So we're just going to glue that right on. I did not post this morning that I was coming to you live today, so who knows what anybody thinks, and I do apologize for that, but there was such a mess in here and I didn't realize how bad the mess was, and I had to keep taking breaks from cleaning because it was wreaking havoc with my asthma, so I had to keep going outside and breathing and drinking water, whatever else, you know. So it took me a while, and I was starting to wonder whether I really would make it outside or not, but I did, or make it back tonight, but I did. Okay, so now I'm going to take the flip side of that paper, which is why I said reverse paper is really good for this, because you don't always want to use the same exact paper, and I'm going to glue that on. Hey Cheryl, how are you? Yeah, Cheryl posted, I'm here, which is interesting because nobody even knew I was going to be here today for sure, because I just didn't post anything. I was just saying because I wasn't sure I was going to get the dust cleaned up in here. And obviously whenever these men are coming back, because there's still a little bit more demo to do, I will absolutely get smart and throw some old sheets over everything in here so that all I have to do is roll those up and wash them, and I don't have to breathe in quite so much dust. All right, so that's that part of it, all right, and I'm just going to kind of leave that for a second. So this would be what would be our card liner, or the inside of our card, but it's not. Now I am looking for one thing that I already kind of can't find, but no, there we go, it's there. I say I know I have it, and I'll make it work one way or the other. So I've got another piece of this paper. It's not exactly a scrap, but I know I want to keep this pretty part here with all the birds on it. So I'm just going to flip it over, and I'm going to take this best label punch, and I'm going to punch on this side using the opposite side of it. So what I did last time, for those of you who weren't here, was I punched 2 of them instead of 1. And then what I did was I put a little glue on the whole thing. I think somebody else in this building is doing some construction too, because I've been hearing some interesting sounds coming through the floor. Okay, and then I'm just going to, I probably don't, well, yeah, I need to add some glue to this. Maybe it's better if I put it here. So I'm just putting a little glue all over this little punch. This is the punch that coordinates with the Alpha Best set. Really, really cute. And if you hit the hashtag Alpha Best, you will be able to find some of the cards that I've made using that. It's really nice. I also used it to personalize my Christmas tags. Not getting this lined up just so, and I really want it lined up just so. There we go. So now we have what will be the pull tab for our card. And if I remember correctly, yeah, I have to trim a little bit off the bottom because we can't have this sticking up too high, because this is the exact size that our card needs to be to fit in the envelope, and that will probably get crushed if I don't get rid of it. All right, so looking for my mini trimmer. Here we go. I tried to put everything so that it was really within reach. So I'm just going to cut off, I don't know, maybe a little bit more, not quite 1/4 of an inch maybe. And and we'll see how that works. Is that a 1/4 inch? Yeah, actually it's very close to a 1/4 inch, so we'll see if that's enough. So that's going to get slipped right in here, and now that's below the line, so that's perfect. I probably could have even cut off a tiny bit less. All right. So Misty Moonlight is one of the colors in here, and I think I also mentioned last week that at first I thought I was going to tuck this ribbon under here, but then I decided that really wasn't going to work well. So I am just going to go ahead and glue this flap down because we really don't need it to hold anything in place. At first I thought I would save ribbon by wrapping it around there, but I really realized I'd be using pretty much the same amount of ribbon, so I'm just not going to worry about it. So this is why I decided I really didn't need to glue it, because once the ribbon goes around it, it's going to stay, and it won't. This can't fall out. All right, so Misty Moonlight is one of the colors here, and so I got out my Misty Moonlight ribbon. And what I need to do is I need to have enough to wrap around the card from the back to the front and tie a bow. So I'm thinking that should be enough, and if I end up leaving my, using more, I always get annoyed if I've wasted, but there's nothing more annoying than trying to tie a bow when you don't have enough length to tie a bow. So I'm going to err on the side of caution if I have to. So what I'm going to do so that this doesn't wobble around on me and make me crazy is I'm going to grab some mini glue dots, and I'm going to put one. I've got my Take Your Pick tool, and I'm going to put one on the back of this card. I really want to make sure it's in the right spot because I want the bow to be right here. So then I'll flip it over and just kind of say, okay, so that's where the dot needs to be. So that's going to hold the mini glue dot in person. Now these things, they're extremely sticky. The problem with them is that sometimes they're so sticky they don't come off the why do I keep saying that? Take Your Pick tool, and they stretch out like Gumby or something. You know what I mean? So yeah, now it's all over my Take Your Pick tool. So that doesn't usually happen. Not like that. So I've got to get that off of there. Sticky stuff, and well, I'm going to put it on my computer because I can see it on my computer. I can't see it on the on the table. Good grief. All right, so we're going to try this again. I bet the spatula side of the Take Your Pick tool might almost be better. All right, so we're going to put that there. There we go. Now it just has to let go of my finger. See, I told you it's extremely sticky. But now I want to make sure that I'm making this even. So I'm just sort of holding it up. That's the middle, and then I can go out a little bit from each side, and that should be right. We will see. Okay, so now that can't get away from me. And then we're going to go ahead and I'm going to want my reverse tweezers, and they're all right over here. I want to pull it a little bit tight, and then I'm going to put another glue dot. I feel like I'm making this seem harder than it is, and it really isn't, honest. All right, I'm going to wait on the glue dot, and I'm just going to try something else, all right? So that's really why I got the reverse tweezers out in the first place. So what the reverse tweezers let you do, so they're closed, and then when you press them, they're open. So the minute you let go of them, they close. And that's what makes them really good for holding things in place. So where you might be tying a bow and you might ask someone to put their finger right there, you don't have to do that, because that becomes your finger, your extra finger. So we're going to put that there, and I want to pull it a little bit tighter now and put that there again. And then I'm going to go ahead and tie my knot first. Okay, and that should work. And if it's still a little loose, and it is, I'll tighten it up. But then the other thing that I can do is I can put one of the glue dots down to hold the whole thing in place. Yeah, I have to practice this particular technique because I don't necessarily do this that much. I tend to make a bow that I just make and then glue in place, so I don't have to do this. I don't like tying a bow while the ribbon, with the whole piece of ribbon, I guess. I'm not even sure how to say that. All right. I think it almost came out better the last time, but I don't remember what I did the last time. I do know that I held it down with a glue dot, but maybe I waited until after I tied the bow. That just doesn't seem quite right, but who knows, maybe I did. All right, so I'm going to hold it down tight. Oh, I know what I did. Do that, and then hold it down. So that's not a knot yet, it's just the beginning of the bow. And you know what? I did not really allow myself enough ribbon, so this is going to be a really small bow. A kind of a puny bow, but that's all right. I think it'll work. Yeah, some people just say give yourself 12 inches to make a bow, and I kind of refuse to do that because I hate to waste it, but I also hate to be fiddling like this. Oh, so the other thing is that I should tell you is that for whatever reason, I have no idea if there's any science behind it, and if so, I don't know what it is. If you tie the bow upside down from the way you really want it, the tails end up going a little bit more in the correct direction. Now that I've said that, it probably won't work, but it usually does. That's all I can say is that it usually does. Oh, good grief. Okay, so I'm not at all happy with that. So what I'm going to do then is something totally different, and that is that I'm going to glue this down with a glue dot. Alright, so this is what you do when you're just not having success with tying a bow that way while the ribbon's attached. And I'm going to snip it off right there. See, now I feel like I'm wasting ribbon, but I might be able to use that for something because it's not too tiny. And then I'm going to get another one, and I'm going to put that on top of that one, and then I'm going to bring that over there and press that down on top of that, and then I'm going to snip that off, and then I'm going to get another piece of the ribbon, and this time without cutting it, because it's easier to do this when you're making a bow. I'm just going to leave one end on. I'm going to try to decide how big it needs to be, but I'm not cutting it yet, so it doesn't matter. The worst that'll happen is I'll have to pull it out and try tying it again. And you can still waste a little bit doing this way because there's nothing you can do about the other side. You just haven't cut it and given yourself way more than you need. And when you're making a bow, you do kind of have to go back and forth. Pull it and then tighten it, pull it and tighten it until it gets the way you really want it to be. All right, so now I'm wasting a tiny bit more there, but again, I'll get over it. And I'm snipping it there, and then I'm done with that, and then I have a bow that I can now put on over that, and no one will know that that's under there. Glue dots are very strong, so they'll definitely hold it. And then I'm going to take one more glue dot and put it right there. Now it's got to give me my finger back, and then stick that on. Okay, so there we have the bow. And there's nothing that says you really have to put a bow there either, to be honest with you. It could be just the ribbon, possibly. No one says it has to be a bow. Okay, and then we need to just take a look at what we're going to put on the inside. So on the inside, I think I'm going to use the Softly Sophisticated stamp set, and that is in the Celebration catalog. So this one, I believe, this one I think I got for free with a $100 purchase because it came in a bundle, and it came with the embossing folder called the Softly Sophisticated embossing folder that I've showed a couple of times in recent weeks. So there's a couple of different things I can do here. So there are only 3 sentiments. Hello there, you're in my thoughts, and I really appreciate you. And then there are these 2-step stamps, okay? And, Yep, I didn't get the green out, but I think it's within reach. So what you do with these two-step stamps, and I think I demonstrated this one too. Whoops, dropped something. Maybe last week, maybe the week before. So you see how that stamp has what looks like a hole in the middle, which seems kind of odd. Like, why does the stamp have a hole in the middle? It's because when you use the next set, the next stamp, this large flower, let's see, is it that way? This large flower goes here in this little crook. The smaller, middle-sized flower goes here where the hole is. And then this little tiny bud goes somewhere, goes right here. If I show it to you this way, maybe it's easier to see, I don't know. Goes right here at the tip of this little piece of greenery here. So it's much, much easier to show you than to have it explained to you. So the colors in here are Flirty Flamingo. There's a little bit of the Bubble Bath, and then there's, I think it's Garden Green. So let me just see what I can grab here. I already have Flirty Flamingo out here, so I'll use that for the flowers. And then I just need a green. Hang on one second. I may end up not using the green they want me to use because, whoops, it's not as easy to grab. I did break down, and I ordered from Stampin' Storage a ink storage container, whatever you want to call it, for here, and the punch thing, because I just can't carry all that stuff back and forth. And when I stack up the, oh my gosh, what am I trying to say? When I stack up the stamp pads just on a shelf or something, then every time I want one, I have to pull it out, you know, and it's, sometimes I have an avalanche and it's just not good. Okay, so we're going to start out. I'm using Mossy Meadow just because it was on top, and that's all there is to it. And I'm going to stamp that here in the bottom right-hand corner of my card inside. All right, looks like that needs a little re-inking. It's kind of light, but maybe that's actually a good thing. And then I'm going to take the other part of the two-step stamp and the Flirty Flamingo ink, and I'm going to ink that up pretty well. And now this is where it's a little tricky, so these are the ones that I recommend that you keep close to you and that you keep right, you know, like your head right over it. So I do know that that little one there has to go right here in this little V where it's supposed to go. So I'm starting with that because I think if I get that where it needs to go, then I can kind of wiggle around the other ones to see how they're supposed to go. So it really can't go this way. So I was wrong when I said the large one's kind of going here, the medium one's kind of going here. Actually, I don't think I was wrong. I think I was just holding the stamp in the other direction. So I'm going to try to keep my hair out of your view, but I may not be able to. Well, I had an appointment for a haircut yesterday, which I had to cancel because of the plumber and tile guys coming. And then they ended up leaving earlier than I thought they were leaving, and I could have kept the appointment. Okay, so that's not bad. It's not great. This flower really isn't attached to anything, and I haven't figured out why. But I've watched a lot of other people do it, and none of theirs are attached either. And then this one is just touching the leaf a little bit, which is not a disaster by any means. All right, so I think that's pretty good. And for a sentiment, I think I'm going to use You're in My Thoughts, because actually I am supposed to be sending a card to someone on behalf of a whole group of people. So that would be really nice to send a card that says, oh no, but that one says I really appreciate you. And I do appreciate her too, but that's not what I want to say. All right, so You're in My Thoughts. I'm going to put that down and put the block on top of it. I'm a little bit crooked there. I was trying to look at something else while doing that. Not a good plan. Okay, of course it has the potential to be crooked anyway. You know how that is. Okay, so we're going going to put that, you know, I'm going to put that here because I have, you know how I always say to you, sometimes you don't want to leave a lot of room because you may not have a lot to say. I have a few things I do want to say to this person, so I need to leave myself enough room to write that. So there we go. Now, you absolutely could decorate the outside as well. If I could take a larger bird maybe and cut it out and put that on there. I could put a sentiment on the outside as well. I just chose not to do that this time, but you absolutely do whatever you like. So now here's my point that I was making last week, is that some people will look at that card and just say, I would never make that card because I don't like that paper. But I wasn't teaching you about paper last week. I was trying to teach you another method for making a different kind of a card. So now I show you this one, and maybe you're like, oh, okay, that's not bad. Maybe you hate the color brown and you wish I hadn't used that, but it is the other side of the paper. So any paper that you happen to have, and I'm not going to make another one, but I got out some other examples, all right? So also using the bubble bath, or this is really supposed to be petal paint, but just picture that, okay? So there's that one that you could use. And then the other side of that is this, so that could be there. And your 1-inch strip could be that, and that would look really pretty together, and that's a floral. This is another one. This is from the Delightfully Eclectic stamp set. So here's another one of the 4-inch pieces, so that could be there. And then, yep, the other side is this. Could be that. Or if you just don't like the reverse side, then just use the same for both. So any DSP that you have, you could use to make this card. And that was kind of my point. And you don't have to use that punch if you don't have it. You could use a circle punch. If you have one of the old tab punches, you could use that. You could use almost anything. All right, so that's that. And next thing I wanted to move on to, because it's definitely getting to be that time, and I probably should have done it sooner, is, I almost said Halloween, is Valentine's Day. So Valentine's Day is coming up, and I somehow found myself, and anyone who knows me will know this is no big surprise, but I somehow found myself on a committee here, and someone, not me, I promise, not me, someone said, why don't we do something for making Valentine's cards, you know, for kids to come in and make Valentine's cards for their parents or their grandparents. So that's on the calendar here for the condominium community. And then she says, you know, I don't know a lot about making cards, you know, but maybe, and of course, I'm like, hello. So I think I'm in charge of Valentine's cards, and I usually do a Valentine's class while I'm down here as well. So this is the Adoring Hearts set, and the DSP that coordinates with this is called the Most Adored 12x12 DSP, and this is pretty unusual. There are only 3 colors in this whole pack of DSP, and that's Flirty Flamingo, Gold, and Real Red. So I think I did review this paper once before. So there are foiled sheets that have flowers and whatnot. So this side looks kind of like, it reminds me of one of those paint pouring types of things, kind of marbly, swirly. But on the other side, that's where you have this, okay? And then you have this one, which is sort of the same thing as the pink one, but in gold. I hope you can see that. I think you can. Oh yeah, you can see that. And then on the back, we've got these red, kind of red plaid, and I really like that. And that would be good if you were making a card for dad or your husband or a man or whatever, because it's not proofy. But then we also have on the side, we have these pretty fluffy pink hearts. And the hearts are sort of made out of like, it's like a vine almost. But then on the other side, you've got this. And again, it's gold. You can't really call it checks. I don't know what you'd call it. It's a kind of a plaid, I guess. I'm not sure what the name of it would be or what you would call it. And then you've got this one with big gold roses. But on the other side, you've got little tiny hearts. And what else? Then you have another kind of checked, oh wait, we have gold hearts. This is kind of a nice scrapbook layout type, or the type where you just cut this in half and you can get 6 cards out of it. And on the other side of that is this. So the back of every single one is gold foiled. And then you've got this one, and on the back of that you've got the well, I shouldn't call it pink, the Flirty Flamingo hearts, okay? So I really like that paper a whole lot. And then the other thing that comes with this, should you choose to purchase the whole suite, and I just love this to death, is one of our hybrid embossing folders. And I can't say enough about the hybrid embossing folders. They're kind of like magic. So let me just show you how that works. So a hybrid embossing folder is kind of a 2-for-1 thing, because you get an embossing folder and you get dies, and they're not separate like they usually are. So this is the hybrid embossing folder, okay, or this is the embossing folder. And as you can see, it embosses little hearts and then these big hearts that all have a design in them. But then this is the set of dies that goes with it. And what happens with these dies, and I've showed you a couple of these before, I think, over time. What happens with these dies is that you open the embossing folder up, and on the side that has the Stampin' Up! Logo, which would be the embossing side, whereas this is the debossing side, you're going to put these with the cut side facing up. And if you just kind of take it and wiggle it around for a minute, what happens is it just sort of all of a sudden pops into place where it all fits in now. And then you take your paper and you lay your paper on top of it. Now, you know, you could make an extra large card using all of this, but what I did was I first used one color, and then you very carefully close it so you don't let that move and it stays where it's supposed to be. You run it through your embossing folder, okay, or run it through your Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And then when I was done embossing the Flirty Flamingo one, I took a real red one and I put that through on the other side, so I got one of every one of these designs and 2 of the ones in the middle. I'm hoping that I'm making sense. But then that's not all. So you've got those dies, but then you have all of these dies as well. So you have 2 hearts that are, I believe, the same. Then you've got 4 hearts that are the same size and shape but have different patterns to them. You have some greenery and some floral stuff. You have a banner that you could put a sentiment on. And then you've got this band of dies that really creates either the cutout would be 4 small stars, but then you could also have a strip that has 4 hearts cut out of it that could make a nice border. So you could do lots of different things with that for sure. And then you have this part that's cut out. So because I did this kind of partially half on one and half on the other, it has a little indentation in there, and so does this, but there's nothing that says I couldn't take my mini cutter and just trim that funky part off. That's, you know, we don't want those little bridges or whatever they're called, little cutouts. I can cut that off, and now I've got a really pretty card front as well. Right? I don't think I'm going to be using that tonight. You never know, I might change my mind, but I wasn't planning on using that tonight. But you certainly could. So I have 2 different card fronts. Those are just sort of leftovers that I might or might not use. So I have one in Flirty Flamingo and one in Real Red. So for the, let's just fold this. I've already scored it. Let's fold it and burnish it down. All right, so picture this as a card front where you're seeing the 6 hearts, but you're also seeing the little embossed hearts, and those are a little bit harder to see, but in person they're there. Yeah, there you go, you can see them. So they're little tiny embossed hearts all over, and that would be really cute. And maybe you could even put a piece of white behind it and stamp like the word love in every spot or something like that. And then just kind of on the flip side of that, you could take the Flirty Flamingo card base and you could use the red one as a topper for that. All right, so, you know, all kinds of possibilities with this. I think what I was thinking about, although I'm already thinking about maybe changing my mind. So what if I were to use this and leave it on there? It's almost the exact same size as the card base itself. And what if I were to start inserting some of these in here? That almost blends in too much, so maybe I would use only the red on this one. So I could start, you've got the debossed side and the embossed side. I almost like the debossed side better for some reason, at least on this. So I could pop those in there and make sure that I'm using ones that are all different. Although they can't be all different because, no, yes they can. No, they can't. Yes, they can. No, they can't. Yes, they can. All right, maybe I'm just a little schizophrenic here. All right, so they're not going to be all different, but I don't know. Who cares about that, really? It would almost be nice to have a third, you know what? You could do it with gold foil paper and put a couple of them in here that are gold foil, since that's another one of the colors. But that's really pretty. Or you could do a combination of where you put some white underneath some of these and stamp something on them. So let me think about this. So this is the stamp set. Some of the sentiments would never fit in there. I Adore You, I think, would just fit in there. With All My Heart would fit in there. These You Are Most Loved would not. Just For You would not. So With All My Heart and I Adore You would, and I'm sure that all of us have a stamp set somewhere in our stash that just says the word love. So that might go in there. We might even have a Be My Valentine stamp. Well, here it says To My Valentine, but we might have one in another set that was small enough to fit in there. So this is one option to do, to just fill these in this way. So here's the other thing, was that since the other color was gold, I said, oh, I'm going to, whatever sentiment I pick, I'm going to emboss it with gold embossing powder. And then I started to have this little recollection memory, and I think what happened was that I made the decision that for 3 months I could go without embossing. And I didn't bring my embossing powder with me, or my embossing buddy did bring with me. So tonight, of course, I was kicking myself for that, but I do have gold foil paper, at least I think I do. So I might do a couple more of these with gold foil hearts, and then maybe just do a white liner with the sentiment in that, or do a kind of a cutout thing. And I love that it has Celebrating You, so it's not just Valentine's, it could be for anything. I mean, hearts aren't just for Valentine's Day. And then I love this one, and my guess is that this and this would also fit inside of there, so that could go on the inside of your card. And then for maybe for this one, do something different where maybe I put a white, well, hold please. What if, that's not exactly the right size, although it's not necessarily the wrong size. You know, what if I were to just put a few of these on this and then put the sentiment in the middle? So I'm just trying to show you some different possibilities. I could easily make like 5 cards right now, but I almost don't want to finish any of them because, again, I have this issue with not having too many sheets of any one color of paper. I don't know what the heck I was thinking. I truly don't. Just do not know. And of course, if we were making a card again for a man, then I might want to take, and I know I do have them here. Well, I don't want to have another here we go again like I did last week. I'm just thinking about a white card base, and I know I had a couple just laying around here. Here we go. So I might take a white card base. I don't think I even scored this one yet. So I might take a white card base, and again, if it was for a man, maybe I would take a bit of this paper, and maybe I wouldn't, you know, well, I don't know. There's no reason why you can't put hearts on something for a man, right? You know, maybe put one in that color on there, and then maybe a gold one, or maybe just a gold one, and then a sentiment. So this stuff I have enough paper with to play with, and white I have enough to play with. I'm not going to order any more colors while I'm here because, to be honest, I have a ton of colors at home and I just don't need any more. But I might order some more embossing powder because you never don't have a need for that. And I have also been meaning to order the embossing, the kit that comes with the tray and the embossing powder, no, the tray and the tweezers and the embossing buddy. I've been meaning to order that anyway because I think that tray is really cool, and I never got one when they had it before. So I'm scoring this at 5.5. This is the thick basic white that somebody gave me way back when. I just don't have enough room here to suddenly say, let me bring up the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine and stamp and cut and emboss some gold for you. I just don't think I can do that here. This table is probably a third of the size of my table at home, not to mention that I don't have all the shelving around me that I have at home. All right, so let's do 4. Well, you know what? I'm going to do 4 1/8. Yeah, I'm going to do 4 1/8 because I don't want to see too much of that white. So I'm going to go a little bit bigger. I'm going to do 4 1/8 instead of 4. And then instead of doing 5 1/4, I'm going to go to 5 3/8. And we'll see if I have any idea what I'm doing here and if that works out right. I think it does. Yeah, I just didn't want to see a whole 1/4 inch of the white. I just wanted to see a little bit. So, and I almost hate to use that up, or cover it up, but you got to do what you got to do. Oh, I didn't cover this, so I need to poke a hole in it. Okay. Yeah, there's definitely somebody sawing something downstairs, and it sounds like a good old-fashioned saw, you know, not a power saw. Whoopsie. So that's another thing that can happen with these. Sometimes you can pull that little stem, the little, what do you call it? The point that the glue comes from. Sometimes you can pull that right out, but you just stick it back in. Usually that only happens when they're newer bottles, because after a while the glue that's in there just kind of causes it to stick. Okay, I don't know how it could still be clogged, but it seems to be. I brought another one out just in case. Alright, I'm going to use the other one and see if that one's in any better shape. And I'm not making cards every day here either, so that could explain why things are kind of drying up on me. Because at home, I think I'm usually making cards almost every day. I'm making something with glue almost every day anyway. Okay, there we go. Now we got it. Okay. Sorry, that sounded a little scratchy and noisy to me. Okay, so I'd like to put, let's see if we can just pretend that, what do you think for a man? Those or gold? Bold gold. The other thing I didn't really think about, is what about taking some of this gold foiled paper that has the checks or whatever, I don't know what to call that, whatever it is, plaid, I guess it's plaid. The plaid, and just cutting out a couple of these really small hearts with that. Well, not really small, but smaller. And I still can't do that now because my paper's way over on the other side of the room, my 12 by 12 paper. So that might work. I'm just going to put those there kind of as a placeholder, and then a sentiment in the middle. That might be kind of pretty. I really wish I had gold embossing powder, but I have to get over it. So I think what I will do is I will say that this is what I'm looking at doing right now. And I'm probably going to add ribbon and some gold foil since I don't have gold embossing. Unless, you know, I know I shouldn't say this out loud, but I do have my Versamark pad with me, which is why I don't get why I didn't bring the embossing powder. I might have some old gold embossing powder here from long ago. I don't know, I'll have to check. Maybe I can get lucky and I'll have some. And then I'll finish up these cards and let you see them. So I wanted you to see the versatility of this set, that you can do a whole lot with it, and that it's not necessarily 100% Valentine's Day. So just real quick, let me get some card insides here, card liners. That's the thick stuff too. One is and one, oh no it's not. It's just two sheets together. and let's just see what these stamps look like. Because they certainly do appear to be very, very pretty. Very pretty. This one's just not quite big enough, I don't think. There we go. And well, I don't know. I think I'll try the real red. And I'm going to, on one side, I have not used this stamp yet. So on one side, I'm going to do that thing that you've seen me do where I kind of, oh, that's going to be pretty. Where I just sort of stamp it and smoosh it. And then I take my chamois and I clean it. And that just usually means I'm going to get a better image, although it sure looks like that was coming out good to begin with. Look how pretty that is. Ooh, that could be like a new favorite stamp. I just really like that. And it doesn't show through. That's the nice thing about our paper. It's very thick. So there is no die that cuts this out though, is there? No, there is not. Okay. So since that's the case, I'm going to put it down here. And you could fussy cut it, but I know sometimes that's a dirty word for some people. Oh, I love that. Look at how that stamps. That is just so pretty. Let me just get that up a little bit higher so you can see it. Isn't that nice? And you could color that in a little bit if you wanted to with some greenery and some whatever. Use your colored pencils or your blends or your Stampin' Right markers if you have those. Ooh, I really like that. And then what about... I was so sure... Yep, I see it. That I got my Memento ink out too. So what if, and I go back to the practice side there. Lost the stamp set already. Right in front of me and I lost it. Here we go. Well, okay, let's do To My Valentine. After all, I said we were going to do Valentine's, right? So let's do a little bit of that. So maybe this one... All right, hang on. I'm getting ahead of myself. So I'm going to take a smaller block and we're going to try this I Adore You. And I know you wouldn't say that to just anybody, but I hope you've got somebody that you could say that to. All right, I just want to see if that really does fit in there. And like I said, give the stamp a little priming. I don't think I have enough ink on there. Let's see. Okay, so my eye looks kind of globby for some reason. And I guess that really is straight within there, just that the whole thing is kind of crooked. So let's see how that works. I'm going to stamp it again, though, and smoosh it. Yeah, the eye is looking really thick. Like every time I use it, it's looking thick. So I don't know what that's all about unless it's really just the way it's cut. And I'll just have to ask other people if theirs is like that as well, because it might not be. And if there, you know, if it were to turn out that there was really something wrong with the eye on my stamp, Stampin' Up! Would send me a new one, no problem. And they would send you a new one as well, so don't worry about it. Oh, that was, I didn't get it dry enough. So we're going to just stamp it again here, just for practice sake. Okay, that's not as bad. That looks better. Okay. Then we're going to go back and hope I get it right this time. All right. It just doesn't look like it has enough ink on it, but I don't want to get any more on the eye than I need to get on the eye. So if you line the letter I up with the little dip in the heart, that seems like that's a really good way to make sure you're getting it straight. And I like that. Okay, so that could be on the inside of your card. And then on the outside of your card, let's see, how wide is that sentiment? Because I happen to have like a little, looks like a 1/2 inch strip right here. Oh, I don't know. Maybe it'll make it, maybe it won't. I'm not convinced, but we'll give it a try. If not, I'll have to do it later with a bigger scrap. You know, I hate when I'm not paying attention to the comments and someone says, I love that one, and then I don't know which one they're talking about because I got 4 cards in front of me. So I'll just say thank you, Cheryl. And you can certainly tell me. Yeah, I think this is going to be just a little too narrow. I think the Y is going to hang off in my... Yeah, it is. Okay, so I need a bigger piece for that. But you kind of get the idea. All right, so now where was I? Where did I put that? Oh my goodness. You know, I'm telling you, there it is. Okay. So for one of these, could be this one, and like I said, I think I'm going to put gold. I keep wanting to say stars. I think I'm going to put gold hearts on this one. We'll see how that looks. And, well, let me leave that. And then we're pretending for now that those are gold stars, okay? And then this could go here. Maybe some ribbon could go under it, but then again, if it's for a guy, maybe we don't want to get it too froofy. And maybe I could find a better design or something, a better label for that, so it's a little bit nicer than that. And then this would go on the inside of the card, and I just really like that a lot. And really, I could stamp that just right on here since it's white. So that's what I'm going to play with, but like I said, I just wanted to show you the versatility. I'm all about letting you see how versatile some of these sets are, and that they don't necessarily have to be for whatever holiday they say they're for. Sometimes, you know, Christmas is Christmas. Okay, the one I'm working on. Yeah, oh, this stamped heart, yeah, that's beautiful. I just love that. And I'll play with the others too, because if that one's stamped so nicely, I bet that this rose is just gorgeous as well. And these little flowers, they all just seem like they'd be very pretty. Very pretty. But yeah, this one I'm in love with already. So, and I might play with coloring that a little bit. Who knows? We'll see what I do. If they don't come tomorrow, then I can just kind of hang out in here and play a little bit tomorrow. Although the last 2 days it's been 80 degrees, which is good. The pool heater is still broken. 2 brave friends of mine went in the pool today, and they said it was cold, but they stayed in and they were talking to each other and trying to keep warm. I'm not sure if I'm brave enough to go in because it was going down into the 40s at night, so that water really is kind of chilly. It's like 70 degrees, which sounds warm, but it really isn't. All right, so thank you very much, and thank you for putting up with my nonsense last week with not being able to find things, and I hope to be more organized depending on what happens. Oh, and a neighbor of mine wants to take some of the furniture that's in this room that I don't really want anymore, which will make this room bigger. But then I still have to find a bed for this room for my guests, but it won't take up as much room as the sofa that's in here now. So with any luck, I can turn it into something that resembles a nice guest bedroom and a craft room. We'll see how that goes. All right, I will see you 1 week from today. I'm hopeful for that. See you 1 week from today, and have a really good week. And like I said, if you're interested in the color coach or a class calendar, let me know. And if you need catalogs, let me know. Okay? Take care. Thank you very much.